People don't respect you because you're kind. They don't respect you because you explain yourself well. And they definitely don't respect you because you try hard to be liked. Respect is not given. It's felt. And most people never learn how to create that feeling. They talk too much. They try too hard. They give too much. And without realizing it, they lower their own value. But there's another way. A quieter way. A more dangerous way. A way that doesn't rely on force, arguments, or loud dominance. It's called psychological pressure. And once you understand it, people won't just notice you. They'll feel you. Even when you say nothing. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something most people ignore. Power isn't about what you say. It's about what people feel when they're around you. Because feelings control behavior. And if you can control what someone feels, you control how they act. Let's start with the truth most people avoid. Respect is emotional, not logical. You can be smart. You can be right. You can be kind. And still be ignored. Why? Because respect doesn't come from logic. It comes from pressure. From tension. From the subtle feeling that you're not someone to be taken lightly. And here's where most people fail. They remove all pressure. They become too available. Too predictable. Too easy to read. And when there's no tension, there's no respect. Think about this. When someone always replies instantly, always agrees, always explains themselves, do you feel pressure around them? No. You feel comfortable. And comfort kills respect. Because comfort removes uncertainty. And without uncertainty, there's no reason to take someone seriously. Now imagine the opposite. Someone who doesn't always respond immediately. Someone who listens more than they speak. Someone who doesn't reveal everything about themselves. Suddenly, things feel different. There's a SL. Because there's a darker side to this. A more strategic side. There's a slight tension. A question in your mind. What are they thinking? Do they approve of me? Where do I stand with them? That feeling. That subtle discomfort. That psychological pressure. And it's powerful. The first principle is simple. Create space. Most people think being closer creates respect. But it doesn't. Closeness creates familiarity. And too much familiarity removes mystery. When people feel like they fully understand you, they stop valuing you. But when there's space, their mind starts working. They start analyzing you. Trying to figure you out. And that mental effort increases your perceived value. Because what's hard to understand feels important. This is why silence works. This is why distance works. This is why not reacting instantly works. You're not being cold. You're creating space. And space creates pressure. Now let's go deeper. The second principle is control the pace. Watch how most people behave. Fast replies. Fast reactions. Fast emotions. Everything is instant. And that speed signals something dangerous. It signals that you're reactive. That you're controlled by the situation. That you don't have control over yourself. But power moves differently. Slow. Deliberate. Intentional. When you take your time to respond, you're not just delaying. You're sending a message. I'm not controlled by this moment. And that message creates pressure. Because now the other person waits. They think. They wonder. And in that waiting, they feel your control. Speed creates comfort. Slowness creates authority. But here's where it becomes even more powerful. The third principle is withholding approval. People are addicted to validation. They want to be liked. They want to be accepted. They want to feel important. Because there's a darker side to this. A more strategic side, and most people give that away for free. They compliment too quickly. They agree too easily. They validate everything. And because of that, their approval becomes worthless. But when you don't give approval easily, it becomes valuable. Because now, it's rare. And rare things are chaste. Think about it. If everyone praises someone, it means nothing. But if one person, who rarely shows approval, finally nods, agrees, or acknowledges something, it hits differently. It feels earned. And that feeling creates respect. This doesn't mean you become negative. It means you become selective. You choose when to give approval. And when you do, it matters. Now let's move to something even more powerful. Strategic disengagement. This is where most people lose control completely. They stay in conversations too long. They try to win arguments. They keep explaining. They keep reacting. And in doing so, they give away their power. Because the longer you stay in a situation, the more chances you give others to read you, challenge you, and control you. But when you disengage, you take that power back. Walking away is not weakness. It's control. Because you're showing something very important. You don't need the outcome. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need validation. And that creates pressure. Because now the other person feels the loss of control. They expected you to react. To argue. To stay. But you didn't. And that breaks their expectation. And broken expectations create psychological tension. And tension creates respect. Now here's something deeper. Something most people never understand. Uncertainty creates obsession. When people are unsure about you, they think about you more. They analyze your behavior. They replay interactions in their mind, trying to figure you out. And the more they think about you, the more important you become in their mind. This is why being predictable is dangerous. If people know exactly how you'll react, exactly what you'll say, exactly what you think, there's no mystery. And without mystery, there's no mental engagement. But when you're slightly unpredictable, not in a chaotic way, but in a controlled, calm way, you become interesting. You become intriguing. You become someone people can't fully understand. And that creates psychological pressure. Now let's connect everything. Silence creates space. Space creates curiosity. Curiosity creates tension. Tension creates pressure. Pressure creates respect. This is not about manipulation. It's about awareness. Understanding how human psychology works. Understanding that people don't respond to what you say. They respond to what they feel. And here's the most important part. This only works if it's real. If you fake it, people will sense it. If you pretend to be calm, but inside you're desperate, it will show. Because real power comes from internal control, not external tricks. You have to become someone who is actually in control. Control of your emotions. Control of your reactions. Control of your need for validation. Because if you still need approval, you'll give it away too easily. If you still need attention, you'll chase it. And the moment you chase, you lose power. Power is not in chasing. It's in attracting. So how do you build this? You start small. You speak less. Not because you're shy, but because you're choosing your words. You react slower. Not because you're unsure. But because you're in control. You give approval less often. Not because you're cold. But because you understand its value. You walk away when needed. Not because you're weak. But because you don't need to stay. And slowly, people start noticing. Not consciously. But emotionally. They feel something different around you. Something they can't fully explain. And that feeling is respect. Because now, you're not trying to be respected. You're creating an environment where respect naturally exists. And this is where everything changes. You stop overthinking what to say. You stop trying to impress. You stop chasing reactions. Because you understand something deeper. Your presence is enough. Now here's the final rule. The one that separates average from powerful. Make people unsure of where they stand with you. Not in a toxic way. Not in a manipulative way. But in a controlled, balanced way. If people are 100% sure you like them, they relax. If people are 100% sure you approve, they stop trying. But if there's just a small level of uncertainty, they stay engaged. They stay alert. They stay respectful. Because now, they value your opinion. They value your attention. They value your presence. And you didn't force it. You didn't demand it. You didn't chase it. You created it. That's psychological pressure. Not loud. Not aggressive. Not obvious. But incredibly powerful. And once you understand this, you'll start seeing it everywhere. In conversations. In social dynamics. In leadership. In influence. You'll notice who has it. And who doesn't. And more importantly, you'll become someone who has it. Because in a world where everyone is trying to be liked, trying to be heard, trying to be seen, the one who creates pressure becomes the one people respect. Not because they have to, but because they feel it. And that feeling is something they can't ignore. Ending CTA, high conversion. If you understood this, you're already ahead of most people. But knowledge means nothing without action. Start applying this today, control your reactions, create space, and watch how people begin to treat you differently. Subscribe now, because in the next video, you'll learn how to read anyone instantly, and once you can read people, no one can ever control you again.